Yeah, my audio sounds really good. Okay. Now, sorry, did I mess that up?
Okay, we're already live, but you look good if that's what you're trying to figure out.
No, I don't know. It has a little circle that's going around a circle.
Oh, I mean, you were fine a minute ago, but now you're kind of frozen.
Sorry, let me refresh.
All right. Well, while my guest for today gets sorted out, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you don't know who I am, my name is Chris M. Walker, and I'm the CEO and founder of legit.com. And today I'm going to be joined in just a minute by a special guest. Let me make sure he's all set.
Right, rock and roll, Chris. Sorry about the technical difficulties. How are you doing, sir?
That's all right. So today I am joined by Brett Swarts, and Brett is a best-selling author of Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. He's the host of the Build It to Billions and Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, and his insights have been featured in the Best Real Estate Conference, DLP Capital Conference, American Entrepreneur with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, and also seen on Fox Business Network. As a real estate broker, his expertise is one of the few in the world who has closed Deferred Sales Trust, Delaware Statutory Trust, and 1031 exchanges. He's the founder of the Capital Gains Solutions, where he teaches purpose-driven entrepreneurs and investors to build their capital gains tax exit plan to multiply their freedom, wealth, and impact. He's closed over $500 million in DST and real estate transactions, and he was the first to help Bitcoin owners exit millions of gains and defer their capital gains tax using a DST. And the best part about having great guests like this on is it means less work for me to do. So without further ado, let's get into it. Brett, how are you doing?
Chris, better than I deserve. Grateful to be here.
Thank you. So let's just go ahead and get started. Maybe I know I gave you the intro there, but can you give us like your background and your origin story, and we'll go from there?
Yeah. So I grew up in Taxifornia. We call it some people call it California. I call it Taxifornia, and it was a beautiful place. Doing a lot of business. My parents building houses in the Bay Area, the rolling hills of East Bay and Silicon Valley, and things are great for childhood. You know, learn how to build wealth through building of real estate. And fast forward, parents were doing very, very successful, and then things didn't go so well. And in fact, they got divorced, and my brother and I were living with my mom most of the time, and my dad wasn't paying child support, but we'd go to his house and he would spoil us. He'd teach us. He taught us a lot of good things, but at the same time, he just wasn't great when it came to the marriage with my mom and not paying child support. But that also taught us to grow and to learn and to have a lot of grit and to see success on one side and see also success on not having wealth on the other side with my mom. But that kind of put enough fire in me to make sure that when I grew older, that wealth wouldn't come between myself and my family or any relationships. And so fast forward, I played college basketball. We're coming off of March Madness, and Florida just won last night, big win. And so I fell in love with building teams and playing on teams and being able to do something together. And so that moved into commercial real estate brokerage at Marcus and Millichap, where I had a chance to help people buy and sell multifamily properties, do 1031 exchanges. The market fell apart in 2008, and I had clients, friends, and family lose half or all of their wealth. And I was that new wannabe entrepreneur real estate guy trying to make it in the business. But it was tough. We ran out of money. My wife and I moved into my brother in a small condo with our first baby on the way. And we really had to figure out if we really had this calling of serving people in real estate and wealth building. And we did. But it took a while to clarify that. I learned about a strategy that we're going to talk about here that changed everything. And fast forward, I got 5 kids. My wife and I married close to 16 years. And now we help people across the country build capital gains tax exit plans, so they don't have to suffer a lot of the pain that sometimes wealth can bring if not properly channeled with mission, vision, values, and or without proper structures that sometimes put them in a more compromised position. And so that's what we focus on, is building with families the stewardship of their capital when they exit.
All right. Well, first of all, 5 kids. I thank you for your service. I have none, and I'm quite happy with that. So, but I understand the need for them. So thank you for that. So you said there's a system you wanted to talk about, but we'll get to that in a bit. But one of the things that I had, I titled this show was on truly passive income. Now, a lot of the people that watch me probably think of passive income as like scammy stuff, like, I don't know, drop shipping and all that other stuff that you see ads for. But that's not what you're talking about when you talk about that. You're talking about real estate and actual investment and wealth building. So just give a little bit more on what we mean by truly passive income.
Yeah, so truly passive income is the number of which, if you had to do nothing, it would show up every single month and you no longer have to work or really even spend any time or stress or energy thinking about the wealth and the cash flow flowing in. And so truly passive income is, a good analogy would be you're Kenny Chesney and you're sitting on the beach and you've got no shoes, no shirt, no problem, right? And you got your guitar and you've got your cowboy hat and your glasses and a beverage of your choice, and you're strumming that guitar. And part of that is the peace of mind, having plenty of time, plenty of margin time to think, to plan, to, give fully of yourself, be fully present as well. It's the ability to have certainty of conviction that the cash flow is going to show up, and it's going to show up on a consistent, durable basis and not a lot of fluctuations. Some people's number is 10,000 a month, sometimes 20, 30, 40,000 a month. And you have that number and it's just showing up, and I don't have to trade any more time for dollars, but also no more brain space or margin in my mind and my emotions for the dollars, because I'm so confident in the durability of that consistent cash flow.
Okay. And that's kind of what you help people with. Some of the things you help people with, right?
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes people make is they read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, with Robert Kiyosaki, and they think they're going to just build all of this real estate or all this business or all of these things and get this passive income, financial freedom number. But then they wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm consumed by these things. And not that it's not a passion to build wealth, to build a business, build real estate, but at a certain point, you might want to shift, you might want to adjust, you might want to compound freedom and impact. And so the way we say this truly passive income is to your freedom and impact as compounding interest is to your money.
Okay.
And when that clicks, it helps you to focus like a laser to unlock this. And then it's the big domino. And once that falls over, it brings just a lot more margin, a lot more freedom, a lot more impact.
So if I'm watching this and I hear you say that, and I think it's appealing and I want to come to you, where do we start? Not just you, like with you, but what would be the stuff that we do, Yeah.
So the first step is like clarifying what matters the most to Chris. Let's say if it was Chris, you're the person, you say, hey, Brett, I want this truly passive income and I want to be able to have, peace of mind, peace of time and plenty of margin with my life. And I said, well, what matters to you the most? And you might say, well, Brett, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to build and I'm not in the passive stage. I'm like, perfect. Let's build a plan that not only unlocks some truly passive income, but also funds and helps you to maybe build another business, or helps you to get out of the business you're in now to harvest, or even harvest the business you have now in order to build another part of your calling in your life. So I'd have to find out what matters the most to you. I would say that's the first thing I would say. Then the second thing I would say is if you're married, right? Okay, what matters the most to you and your spouse is a family unit. If you have kids, you don't have kids, right? So if you had kids, and as a part of that is really building out what's called the family mission, vision, values, because a lot of this doesn't matter, or you're building a ladder on the wrong wall if you don't have a clarity on your family mission, vision, values. And so understanding that piece of it, the foundation of the why, the calling of your life, where you're headed, what are your unique strengths, and how does that fit into the wealth discussion? How does that fit into the wealth strategy, right? If you don't have that key, it's like not having a compass to go in the right direction, right? And so we clarify if you have that, if you have, what's your calling, we clarify what do you feel like your mission is for your wealth. And then once you have clarity on that, we move into the next piece, which is the obstacle. Like, what is the obstacle, Chris, between you and that piece of it? For some of the entrepreneurs we work with, it's like, I just don't have the time or the energy or the margin to think about those kind of things. Or, man, I haven't even really thought about those kind of things. Like, where do you start with that, right? And or for the person who's retiring, like, hey, well, maybe, or moving and transitioning a little bit older in life, that is really meaningful. I really want to focus on legacy. I really want to focus on impact. We like to say that you don't have to have one or the other. I think the other myth that most people have is they have to wait until they retire to make an impact, right? Mm-hmm. It's either, build the wealth now or give it, right? Well, it's really build wealth and give it, right? It's either I'm fully present with my kids all the time, or where I'm focused at, or I'm having to work, right? And it's this or myth versus the and mindset that really changes things. And so we figure out the obstacle, we clarify, where you want to be, right? And then we work backwards to close the gap. Right. And that's when we dive into the actual tactical pieces, which have to do with capital gains tax deferral strategies, with real estate investing, or building a team on other investments, depending on your risk tolerance and your past experiences with investments. And then as a team, we put that all in a clear plan, and then we execute it. So that's the basic framework, Chris, of how we would work.
That's great. It's what I like about that is that it's not ABC. Like everything you said was revolved around the individual. And a lot of people that try to sell investment and strategies, they have like a cookie cutter thing that they plug people into. And it doesn't sound like that's what you do at all. Correct.
Yeah. We got to customize it. Otherwise, again, you could be building a ladder on the wrong wall. Right. And so if you're not clarifying and the person's not working with you to clarify what's really meaningful for you, then, again, you can look up in 5 or 10 or 15 years and go, oh my gosh, like I was climbing the wrong ladder on the wrong wall. And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just squandered, or just, basically ruined or didn't have as an effective outcome for 5 or 10 or 15 years of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely don't want that. So it sounds like a lot of what you do revolves around real estate. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's where we learned and built our wealth personally. Right. And helped our clients do that. That just happens to be our niche and our superpower. Like we're real estate investment advisors that help people create and preserve wealth within real estate, using an advanced capital gains tax deferral solution to unlock the capital to form into real estate. But it doesn't have to be just real estate. We have clients that exit Bitcoin, clients that exit businesses, and then they invest into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, or Bitcoin, or real estate. And so it's a diversified approach. Like we're not saying it's a one size fits all. It's like what size fits for you, the client, and how much liquidity do you want or need? How much risk tolerance? What's your risk tolerance, right? And how do we kind of form like what's called like a mini family office with professionals to help you execute that business plan. And so sometimes that means bringing in financial advisors. We work with financial advisors. They bring us their clients, right? We're like a trustee. We're kind of like an offensive coordinator, helping to execute and bring in the best. It's kind of like we're forming mini family offices for each of these massive exits. So we can talk into some like live deals or some closings, I think, to help bring this to life. But you're right. It's not a one size fits all. We really want to customize it.
Right. So I'm going to be honest, usually when I have guests, it's subjects I have a lot of expertise on. I don't have a lot of expertise on this. So if I ask any questions that sound noobish, please forgive me. But can you maybe explain what deferred sales trusts are to people so we can kind of get into that?
Yeah. So a deferred sales trust is just an installment sale combined with a trust that allows the seller to slowly pay tax over time versus it paying it all in one lump sum. And the way it works is the seller sells their asset, their business, their real estate, their Bitcoin to the trust in exchange for a promissory note to pay them back in full over time. So let's give you an actual example. We had a client, she bought Bitcoin for $50,000 and it went as high as $50 million. Okay. She never sold until she met us. And part of that is the capital gains tax. Yes. But also part of that, she didn't have a clear way to multiply freedom and impact for her next business venture. And so when Bitcoin was at 54,000 a coin, we exited 5 million, deferred 1.85 million of tax. And then the funds were used to invest into a business venture with an online educational academy, right, for kids, and also into the stock market to diversify some. Okay, so that was her plan, and we executed that. Now, Bitcoin went as high as 68,000 before the last run up, right?
Yeah,
dropped to 15, and then went to 110, and I think we're right around 78 today. It's kind of been a wild few months.
Yeah.
And so that's just an example, right? We sold high, diversified, right? And so she sold the Bitcoin. We transferred it to the trust, 5 million worth. The trust issued her a promissory note for 5 million. And I think the interest rate was around maybe 9 or 10%. And then the trust immediately sold it for 5 million.
Oh, wow.
So the trust had no gain. That's how it works. You buy it for 5 million, sell it for no gain. And the seller, my client, they're receiving it. the portion of the 5 million back slowly over time. And now, ideally, we're always earning interest, right? And so they're just living off the cash flow. And that's really the cool part. This is how we unlock truly passive income plans. A lot of people aren't very clear on where they want to go, but then they get clear. I want to sell the thing, but they get stuck like this capital gains tax. And they're like, but I want truly passive income or some form of flexibility with my wealth. So how do I bridge the cash flow, tax flow, debt flow, timing? Well, this is where the Deferred Sales Trust comes in. And this system, this process, this strategy opens up all of that flexibility.
Okay. And what about a 1031 exchange? Can you explain what that is? Because I have a follow-up question on the two of them. So,
yeah, 1031 exchange is a continuity strategy where you can sell investment real estate and trade it or exchange it for another like kind investment real estate property. Very clear, very, very important to understand that. Okay. Number two, you have to replace the debt. So if you had, 5 million of debt on your sale, you need to buy something with at least 5 million of debt. And the sales price, if you sold for 10 million, you need to buy something for 10 million, right? So it keeps you in debt if you have debt, and it keeps you rolling into investment real estate if you want to roll into investment real estate, which, by the way, we love investment real estate. When the deals make sense, when the timing is right, and when the actual property makes sense, we love 1031 exchanges. So that's a 1031 exchange. It's just a way to also defer capital gains taxes and to roll it into other like-kind properties.
Okay. So let me ask you this: how would a DST save a failed 1031?
By using what's called the best 1031 exit plan, which we execute with our team and the attorneys and the accommodators that we work with. And instead of just receiving capital at the end of a 1031 exchange and just paying tax, the trust can basically purchase your position and issue you a promissory note. So just like before, in fact, I'll tell you an actual deal. We had a $6 million sale in Texas. And so he found a perfect $2 million deal where he exchanged into that. Well, there's $4 million remaining. He found another $2 million deal. He exchanged into that, one in South Carolina, one in Oklahoma. Well, then the last $2 million went into the trust, right? And so we can sometimes do a bifractured 1031, multiple 1031s, but the simple answer is by having the trust purchase your position in exchange for a promissory note, and then the seller becoming the lender and receiving back payments slowly over time from the trust. That's how it works.
Wonderful. Okay. So let's shift a little bit. Now, I have a couple of businesses, and there's one, not my main one for those of you watching that would freak out if I said I was looking to sell, but there's some that I may be interested in exiting in the future, right? And I may want so if I was to exit one of those, how would I defer capital gains tax on the sale of a business and maybe invest into like commercial real estate and have it be tax deferred? Is that possible? If so, what would I do?
Yeah. So you're the entrepreneur. We have lots of clients. Like, in fact, I'll talk about David, who's very similar to you, Chris. In fact, he's had 6 exits with us, 6 exits worth over $120 million of value of the gross exit. His portions were smaller GP positions. He owns multifamily properties, and his business partner Jordan does as well. And so they buy, a $15 million apartment complex. They'll sell it for $20 million, a couple of years later. So we did a $20 million exit for them, another $40 million. And every time they exited, they took their positions into the trust. Okay, and they started to consolidate their equity into this trust. Multiple exits. Okay, that's important. And then what's cool is they're out buying other investments. Right. So the trust can partner with you. In this scenario, they partnered with Jordan and partnered with David to be a partner with them into their next business venture, which happened to be another real estate apartment complex. So the simple answer is you sell, you defer the tax, and the trust turns around and partners with you into a LLC, which you form. And that LLC can be the startup capital for the new investment. And the LLC can go into your next real estate purchase. So that's the simple answer of how it works. And it's actually really great because a lot of entrepreneurs like us, Chris, and like David and Jordan, they want to be able to do their next venture. But here's the biggest piece: you don't have to have any timing restrictions. So you don't have any 45, 180, sprint like the 1031 has. You can do it at any time. So you can wait for the market to shift. Parents taught us to sell high and buy low, not sell high and buy higher at 180 days later.
Okay. You say that's simple. That sounded a lot less than simple to me, but that's why we need people like you, right?
Yeah, you hire the who, not be the how, right? Yeah, it's really simple in our mind because we've done it so many times, right? But that's the key. I mean, you want to build a dream team to help you with this.
Yeah.
But really what's simple is, what does Chris want to do? Well, Chris wants to sell his business and he wants to buy real estate tax deferred. Okay, that's simple. Well, in between it, we have to set up things, an IRA, a 401k, a deferred sales trust, a 1031. These are all, you can go through the tax code and you could say, oh, these are complicated things. Well, maybe to you if you've never done them, but it's like the building of it is a bit complex if you've never done it, but the outcome is really simple. Like, I don't want to pay 20, 30, 40, 50% in tax, and I want to be able to buy real estate and be an entrepreneur. Awesome. We have a solution for you.
So further on the topic of exits, one thing I have learned in my research on them is it makes sense to maybe, and if you correct me if I'm wrong, but I live in South Carolina now, which has state income tax. If I knew a sale was imminent within a few years and it was a big amount, it would probably make sense to start setting up residence in a non-state income tax state like Nevada or Texas or something. Is that right? Or is that not?
So it all depends, right? So what's thing called Nexus, right? I want to give you this scenario. Imagine Elon Musk built Tesla and Silicon Valley, right? In Fremont, right? It was his major place there. Or Steve Jobs builds Apple there in Cupertino, right? Mm-hmm. And so the thought is, well, why don't you just move to Puerto Rico and then sell the company? Right. So there's a thing called Nexus, which basically states, like, depending on the business and the nature of the business, where you're located when you build the business, the capital gains tax is going to be due to that state in which, when you sell it, regardless of where you move and sell it. Right now, I don't know your business. Talk with your CPA. Look at that, but just be careful, right? That you don't get caught doing something where you said, oh man, I should just pay the tax, or just use our strategy and we'll defer the income tax and the capital gains tax for the state of South Carolina and the federal government, right? So that's what I would say. We're like the Bitcoin exit plan. You don't have to move to Puerto Rico, we say, or even like yourself. Or like, I don't really want to move to Nevada. I want to stay in South Carolina. Great. Let's use the deferred sales trust. Don't change your life because, just to save some tax, right? Were you going to move to Nevada? Now, I'll give you one thought here. We do have clients that move out of California or out of New York or New Jersey, and they move to places like Florida, Nevada, and Texas, right? Where they're lower income tax states. This is important. Once the money's in the trust, regardless of where you sold it, you move to a new location. The interest of which it accrues and that you receive in the given year is based upon the state in which you reside. So, yes, you can do a tax efficiency play. You can be in California, New York, South Carolina, move to a more tax efficient state. The interest income off of the trust is taxed as ordinary income tax rates, but only in the state in which you reside.
Okay. That was way over my head. Again, that's why we need folks like you to handle things like this. Maybe we can shift a little bit. And you have a book, right? Is this some of the kind of stuff you cover in that book?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do have a book. It's called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. Thanks, Chris, for mentioning that. And yeah, we have Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. We also have Tony Robbins, CPA, in the book, which is pretty cool. And some really smart people. They say get in the room with smart people, where I got in a book with smart people. Now I have my chapters as well, but we brought in some experts about building, elite organizations, about building wealth in multifamily mobile home parks. And it's centered around the deferred sales trust as the way to exit and then have these options. But yeah, this is we call it the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or for your clients. It's called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan.
And where would they go to buy that?
They can find it on Amazon, or just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com or brettswarts.com, and you can click on the link. But yeah, Amazon is the best place.
Okay. I knew that. I just wanted to give you a chance to plug that.
Cool. Thank you.
No, I mean, not about the book, but where to get it. I knew that. I just wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was on your podcast maybe a month ago. Irrelevant. Yeah. And I want to talk about podcasts and things like that in general.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. People don't tend to associate with the type of business you do with, content marketing. So I'm guessing that has actually been that you did. I'm sure you do it just because you enjoy it, but it also is a way to drive business. Is that true or no?
100%. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to just share and the best way that we feel to share is YouTube channels and podcasting, because it gives people a chance to, speed it up by 1.5 or whatever. And also like pause and like go back and like, wait, did he say just what I just, thought he said? And so, yeah, routinely people will call me and say, consumed hours of your content over the weekend. This is literally going to change our life because we had no way to defer this tax. And we thought we either couldn't sell, or B, if we did, we'd get crushed. And so that becomes the on-ramp for transformation for families. So yeah, we love to create content and do it on podcast.
And I guess you say you've already gotten people doing that. I do it for the same reason. I mean, I enjoy it too. I assume you do too.
Oh yeah.
But it's also a means to an end. Like there are things that I do things that I enjoy for enjoyment, and I do things I enjoy to make money too.
Yeah.
And I do the content for that. And it's just building on that a little bit, because I think our audience will be interested in that. Like everybody in every niche should try to do some type of content marketing, right?
Yeah. So by the way, it's 2 T's, by the way, on brettswarts.com. So 2 T's, but I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, blogs and I think video is the best. But people write blogs and people create, write books and speak on stages and then do podcasts. And I think the most efficient, for me, I found for my skill set and my strengths is just to jump on microphones with people like you, Chris, and dive in right into the topic and create the content on a video. But I couldn't agree with you more. And then they have stuff that you can now, thing called Gumloop I'm just learning about, where you can take the video and you can put it into a system called Gumloop, and it can basically do the blog and do the WordPress website post all in one. Just click a button once you set it up. So these things are just, waiting to be executed on with AI and where we're going. It's becoming much more streamlined and easier to do. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
And I'm tying this a little bit into our audience now too, but you mentioned AI, and one of the reasons I've been doing a lot of like appearances and shows like this is one of the ways you show up higher in answer engines like ChatGPT is the more times your brand is mentioned, the more times it'll associate it, and the more likely you are to be referenced in that. And I think that's where search is going in the future. So it's another reason to do this kind of thing. So
100%. Yeah. Well, yeah. And so we want to say Capital Gains Tax Solutions is the authority in Deferred Sales Trust, right? Just saying that and putting that to ChatGPT helps them to think about, and if they hear it multiple times, like the SEO effect, I guess it's the old SEO effect. Exactly. Like, I think that's a powerful thing to take advantage of.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So we've talked about that. Now, what have we not talked about that you want to make sure that people take away from this?
Yeah, I would just say that, you may know somebody, and you may be that person who's selling that business or that real estate, that Bitcoin, that stock that has massive gains, and just the importance of setting this up prior to the exit, right? Like most people don't spend 2 or 3, 4 hours planning, and they give 20, 30, 40, 50% of what they built for the last 5 or 10 years. I mean, until they meet us, right? Or they just don't think it's possible. So I would just say, prepare, plan, give it some thought now, even if you're not like, oh, I'm exiting, in a month, because what can happen is you get into this big M&A deal with M&A attorneys, you get into this big, your CPA, and all this stuff is happening really fast. And what we can't do is help you post-close. So you need to set it up prior to the close. The only exception is if you're doing a 1031 exchange and you're working with us to do the best 1031 exit plan, we give you both options where we can still do it post-close with the 1031 company that we work with and we connect you with. So just make sure you get with us early. That's what I would just say. Just, the more time we have to plan, it's just no fire drills. And we work on a conditional basis. We promise to never talk you into anything. If we don't think it's a good fit, we'll let you know. You do need to have $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. It needs to be bigger transactions. So if you're listening to that, but yeah, if you just go to our website, you can schedule a time with one of my team members or myself to dive into this, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com.
Perfect. So one other thing I want to touch on, you talked about like purpose and impact and vision and things like that a lot. So it's more than just about money for you, right? Not you, but for, the people you work with. I think that's an important thing because a lot of folks, it's just about the dollars and cents, but I think you have more purpose behind what you're doing. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I believe I've been, given a gift from God to help people steward their capital in a meaningful way that makes an impact for MVPs. And so this is a calling on my life. It's more than just, dollars and cents. It's freedom and impact for families and for the most vulnerable people in the world. We have an opportunity here. All of us do. There's about 84 to 100 trillion transferring over the next 15 years. It's known as the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet. And there's about 80,000 baby boomers turning 65 every year or 10,000 turning 65 every single day in the U.S., 80 million in the U.S. alone. And there's about, 50% of that is tied to high-end primary homes, businesses, and commercial real estate. And so you look at this, it's not just an opportunity, it's really a responsibility for the generation that's going to be receiving this capital and the professionals that are helping to transition this capital to make it as efficient and make it as impactful as it can be, versus even just seeing the last 60 days with what's going on in the government, what they're uncovering with the waste, fraud, and abuse. It's a disaster, right? And so you have to be proactive. There's legal ways to do these things, and there's teams to help you execute it. We haven't really touched on the estate tax, but that's a 40% death tax on anything above $28 million married, about 14 million single, set to cut in half in 2026. So estate tax and death tax is a big thing. If you've seen the show Yellowstone, you have Kevin Costner and you have Beth, the daughter, and they have this big piece of land in Montana. And the whole thing, Chris, is like, Beth is telling her dad, sell the land. He's like, I'll never sell the land. It's been in the family forever. She's like, but Dad, if you don't sell the land and they kill you, the death tax is going to kick in and they're going to take the land anyways. He's like, I'm never going to sell the land. It's been in the family forever. And this is like literally the entire show. And if you haven't seen the show, spoiler alert, that's the entire show. But but that's the point. Like, people, if you're not aware of the rules and the laws, if you're above these amounts, the government will take 40% death tax. And so we also have a way to solve all of that. The point of that is, if we do, it can keep it in the hands of the people. And if it stays in the hands of the people, we can create the jobs. We can build the houses, right, to end the housing crisis. We can give and steward the capital to the most vulnerable people in this world to make a huge difference. Versus the government, who has not only just proven, but literally went off the rails with how reckless they are with the efficiency of spending and these backroom deals. It's a train wreck. What's this travesty, really, what's happened, right? So we want to be proactive. We want to use all the legal means necessary to make a big difference in these next 15 years. So it's 84 trillion to 100 trillion. It's massive, right? And so here we are.
Wonderful. All right, we're going to wrap up in the next few minutes. Anything else you want to cover before we do?
No, that's it, Chris. It's been really good to spend some time with you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the mic with you.
You too. As I learned a lot from it, and I've got more that I want to research afterwards. So that's great. Now, if people wanted to get in touch with you or learn more about you or that sort of thing, where would they go?
Yeah, so capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, if you have like a live deal and I want to dive in and get a free ebook, right? And schedule a time, apply for a call, no cost call, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. If you want to get to me on all my social media and LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff, that's brettswarts.com. It also has links to our company's Capital Gains Tax Solutions and everything else too. So just those are the two places.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I've learned a lot from this. I'm sure our audience did too. So thank you. Any last words?
No, that's it. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You too. Yeah. Thank you. All right. We'll be back later this week with somebody else and something else. Until then, figure out what you want out of life and go out and get it, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the world. I'll see you again soon. Peace.